All right. Welcome back to our podcast. Today we have our first guest on this podcast. It's my brother. So obviously you can tell that I got all the better genes in the family. I'm the better
You
looking
wish.
one.
You
I'm the better
wish.
looking one. But my brother's knows a lot about investing in business. I'll let him explain everything and give himself a little intro first. But so today we're just going to talk about some business and investing, and it's good for us because most of us were young and we're just starting to get into it because it's the perfect time to get into that stuff. So yeah, why don't you give yourself a little intro?
Sure. Okay. I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm only the guest, but that's fine. Yeah, so I'm Lucas's older brother. I am the vice president of a company called Le Souk. We operate a chain of grocery stores and cafes. Um, we operate off of a franchise model. We can discuss that later. I also work as a growth consultant where I help small businesses scale their business, helping them with issues such as advertising or supply chain, stuff like that. Um, I also work for a law firm. Once upon a time, I wanted to go to law school. So I started working for a firm as a criminal and corporate clerk. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got a little bit of a legal background, but more of a part-time thing for me now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I know that you started investing when you got into like college, and that's what we're kind of starting to do now. Like, what kind of advice can you give to young people like us that are trying to get in? Because we're all just trying to get into it. Not a lot of us know a whole lot about it, but yeah.
Start early. So getting into it now is good. You want to start as early as possible because you want to take advantage of the compound interest.
Mm-hmm.
Investing at any point in life is always a good thing, but the sooner you start, the better off you are
Mm-hmm.
because you've got more time for that money to grow. Um, you know, like if you start in your 20s, you can see a 90% increase
Mm-hmm.
versus starting in your 30s.
Mm-hmm.
It really does make a difference. For a more tangible advice, I'd probably say, you know, don't try to play the short game.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to day trade unless you want to make a career out of stock trading.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to buy stocks, understand that it's a risky investment. Be okay with losing the money if you need it, or
Mm-hmm.
if you do lose it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, stick to bigger the portfolios such as ETFs. ETFs are good because it's essentially a basket of stocks, like different companies, and
Mm-hmm.
it grows for you, so you don't have to worry about individual stocks. They're very well managed, especially the S&P 500s and the Vanguard ETFs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Individual stocks are fine too, but my biggest advice would just be to start early and keep it long term. Don't get freaked out if the stock increases or drops in a 1 month period. If you're going to buy stocks, be in it for the long haul. Netflix took a long time to see big growth, and a lot of people sold out early, but now Netflix is a $365 stock. Um, so if you keep it in the long run, it can really pay off.
Yeah, I think that's my problem right now, and I don't know if I know Tariq's starting and investing and stuff like that, but I think my problem right now is like that I'll buy stuff, I won't hold it long enough, and then it'll just like sell, and I'll sell that like a discount or like at a loss, and then like there's a Facebook marketplace or a Facebook group chat that I'm in that Brandon invited me to, and it's about like on Wealthsimple. And everyone always tells you to like invest in these small little penny stocks. Every single one that I've invested in has all lost me like not tons of money because they're penny stocks, obviously, but they've all lost me like a couple dollars that So I think also is just invest in companies that you actually know what the company is. Don't invest in like what's the one that I'm in right now? I think it's called like FLT. I have no idea what it is, but I invested in it and I'm losing money on it right now. So I think the best thing is always to just to like um invest in things that you actually know what you're investing in.
Well, it's all relative, right? Like I have shares in Nokia
Mm-hmm.
Corp.
Mm-hmm.
Nokia is company, but I'm losing money on it technically right now because the stock keeps dropping. You know, it'll go from $4.22 a share to like $4.05. It was $3.88 today earlier. But it's a huge company and they're doing good things on the 5G network. So I suspect it's going to go up maybe within the next 2 years or so. But I don't want to sell the shares because I'm familiar with the kind of projects that they have. But again, there is still always that risk that you're going to lose a lot of money. But have a TFSA, have an RRSP, take advantage of the RRSP so you can really save for retirement. Most people don't want to think about retirement until they're 40, but if you start now, even $10 a day or even $10 a month right now is better than what a lot of people are doing at your age. So it's still every penny counts, every dollar counts. TFSAs are great because you can contribute up to a maximum. They cap it, but you can withdraw without penalties. So for example, if you're day trading in a personal account, a personal investing account, when you sell your shares, you have to pay taxes on the capital gains. But if you withdraw from a TFSA, there are no taxes. You don't have to pay taxes on the gains.
I have a question. Like, what type of things would influence like the rise or drop on a stock? Since like, I just noticed they keep dropping and rising, you know, over time.
Yeah, a whole bunch of things. So the market's very volatile. It can be a whole bunch of things. So like with what just happened with GameStop, that was short selling the stock. So essentially it's a bit of this, but short selling a stock is when if I buy shares from the market and then I sell them to you and then I rebuy them at a lower price and then resell them, that's short selling a stock. That can cause the stock to rise, drop. It's very easy manipulating. But what also causes stocks to lower or increase is just demand. So the more people that buy a stock, typically the value goes up. It also depends on if it's a private company or a public company. So with public companies, the market typically dictates the value of a company or the value of a share. Whereas with a private company, it can really be valued a lot of things. So, you know, I'm with companies that are valued at $1 million, but every share is $1. So it's $1 per share. And then the value goes up to $1.15 per share, and that's based off of sales. And you have to be careful that you're not diluting your equity, because the more shares you issue in a private company, you can issue as many shares as you want in a private company. Just because you have unlimited shares doesn't mean you should give them all away. So typically, I know this doesn't really answer your question, but mining companies are famous for that, where they can't afford to pay an invoice. They just give out shares. But when everybody thinks they're getting shares because everybody thinks they're going to be rich, but there's like 5 million shares issued in this company, everybody's equity is diluted. You know, nobody has any actual equity in the company. It's like, yeah, you've got 10,000 shares of a mining company, but the mining company is worthless. So it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's the thing that like we always talk about is that we have no idea what dictates what goes up, what goes down, because especially the GameStop thing, that was so random that it just went up that high. Like I think it was like a 300-something% increase.
Well, that was
like,
crazy, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a different story. But yeah, and then I know Tariq even today was talking about cryptocurrency. Like I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. Tariq said he's gonna learn more about it, but I could let him talk about it if he wants.
Yeah, the thing with cryptocurrency is it's such a mystery right now. Nobody really knows anything about it. There have been really big wins with cryptocurrency, and there have been really big losses. Elon Musk is an example. I mean, that just happened. Elon Musk and Tesla just lost like $1 billion in cryptocurrency, because it happens. It's like any other stock, right? It's very volatile, but because it's such a mystery thing right now, people are still experimenting with it. There isn't really a lot of knowledge on it. There's a lot of people that come up with theories. You just have to make sure you're just fact and fiction when you're doing your research.
Yeah, I think even Wealthsimple, like there was something that you could do and you get like 0.1% or 0.10 something of Bitcoin, which would give you like I think 60 cents equivalent to like Bitcoin. It's like nothing. It's not much, but I mean, I don't even know how to buy Bitcoin. Like,
I got a question.
Yeah.
What would you say would be the better investments, stocks or like crypto? or just like investing in general?
I think investing in general is a good idea, but a balanced portfolio is always best. Not leaning too, I mean, it's the typical saying, right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Don't
Right.
invest all of your money in cryptocurrency, but also to invest all your money in private stocks or single stocks. You know, like I have a relatively balanced portfolio. I've got ETFs spread across a TFSA, an RSP, and a personal account. I have shares in private companies. I have shares in public companies. I don't have any cryptocurrency shares. I'm still exploring that. But yeah, if you're interested in investing in cryptocurrency, the only advice I can give you is be ready to lose the money. And I'm not saying that it's going to lose money. I'm just saying if you do, make sure it's not going to be the end of the world for you. Like, don't remortgage your home to invest in Bitcoin. Is what I'm saying. But investing in general is always a good idea. Especially with savings. I mean, you should have an emergency fund just for general savings, but you shouldn't put all of your money in a savings account, because with inflation, I mean, you can put $1,000 a month in a savings account for the next 10 years, but it's not going to be worth the same in 10 years. So saving it really didn't do anything for you just because inflation. So if you invest it, it keeps up with the market on its own. Your money works for you.
Yeah. What about like investing in companies? Like how your company right now, people are investing, like giving you, how does that work? Like they invest the money, do they own a percentage of that company or?
Yep. So when you buy any share of any company, whether it's private or public, you technically own a percentage of that company.
Yeah.
The difference is when you buy, like if you were to buy one share of Tesla today, you would technically own a percentage of Tesla. But if you only buy 50 shares, because there's so many shares in Tesla, your percentage is very small. Whereas in a private company, especially smaller ones like startups, you could buy 100 shares and own 50% of the company, depending on how many shares are issued outstanding. So when somebody invests in a private company, they're buying, it's a transaction, it's a share purchase. So we just had an investor come on and he gave us $10,000. And in exchange, we sold him Class C special shares. There's common shares and there's preferred or special shares. There's different classes. So typically when you buy shares on the market, they're non-voting. The shares that companies issue to the public, usually they're non-voting because they're just there to issue dividends or retain value. But they don't give you voting rights in the company. You can't go to a Tesla meeting and be like, I object, because there's no voting rights. It's the same thing with a private company. So the Class C special shares are non-voting. So this new investor will receive at the end of the year a dividend for the equity that he owns based off of our sales and profits from the year. But he doesn't have any voting rights within the company. So if the shareholders want to make a decision or the directors want to make a decision, we don't have to consult his opinion because he doesn't have voting rights, but he will get paid a dividend. So the dividends are based off of your ownership equity. And it's based off the value. So if he buys in at $1 a share and we go up to $1.20 a share, he just increases value.
Yeah, but you guys aren't public yet, right?
No.
Like, yeah, so yeah. And then the other thing is, because I know a lot of people like right now, like especially Tariq, about his music and stuff like that. How do you even begin to start your own company, like the legal side of it?
Well, it starts with, on the legal side of it starts with incorporation. So you have provincial incorporations, you have federal incorporations. So a provincial incorporation means you're only allowed to conduct business activity in the province that you incorporate. A federal incorporation technically means you can conduct business in every province in Canada, but you have to have an extra provincial registration. So if I register a federal company, which is what our company is, we have to register in each province that we want to conduct business in. So right now we only conduct business in Ontario, but we have an extra provincial registration with Ontario. If we wanted to conduct business in Alberta, we would have to register in Alberta. It doesn't mean you have to reincorporate. It just means that you have to basically go into the province and say, hey, we're going to be conducting business activity here. The difference with names is a federal company or a federal incorporation typically gives you better name coverage and protection because it's a federal name. It's spread across the country. Whereas if it's a provincial incorporation, you could have Dick's Sporting Goods in Ontario, and you can have a Dick's Sporting Goods in Alberta. because they don't conduct business in the same province. So they're technically not stepping on each other's jurisdictions. If it's federal, if you have Dick's Sporting Goods instead of federal incorporation, forget about it. You're not going to touch it.
Okay.
You could try, but you shouldn't. So that's the legal thing. It really just starts with incorporation, and then you go from there. But as far as starting a business, there's so much more to it than that. You know, you got to come up with a product, whether a product or a service. Depending on what your product or service is, you know, branding, awareness, advertising, and then operating is a whole other animal. So Tariq specifically, like, what do? You're an artist or you're a music producer?
I can't use audio.
Yeah.
Damn. Oh, there. Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I do songwriting, and I'm also an artist, so I have to be covered by, I think, SOCAN. SOCAN is supposed to be for like most of the royalties, including radio stuff, but I'm still kind of new to it, and I also want to get the full coverage of whatever that is.
Yeah. So for you, you don't have a product or a service. Your brand is yourself. You know, you are your brand. So with that, you incorporate yourself, and then your company is separate from you. So even though your brand, you produce the music and you write the songs, your incomes and your legal liabilities are separated from the company. So for example, if the company gets sued, you don't have to give up any of your own personal liabilities. They don't come after, if you own a house and your company gets sued, they don't come after your home. The company just goes bankrupt. So there's different operations when you're running your own self brand, right? There's promoting your own content, creating your own content, network yourself. You know, it's very self-oriented. Whereas with my business, we're product driven. So most of our customers don't even know I exist. I'm very much behind the scenes. All the work I do goes into promoting the product.
Yeah.
Quick question. For like investing and stuff like that, like I'm guessing most of it's like online, whether it's on a computer or your phone and stuff like that, but are there other ways that you can acquire like any kind of property, like stuff?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it depends on the investment, right? Like if you're investing in TFSAs, RSPs, buying individual stocks of companies, typically it's done now through online. It used to be done back in the day. You would see like an investment banker and they would, you know, buy the market directly from them. Like if you've ever seen The Wolf of Wall Street, people calling in and then the broker is doing the transaction. That's how it used to be. Now everybody can do it from their own devices. But if you're buying real estate, I mean, that's a different type of investment completely. And that's not typically done online. Like you actually have to buy property and then you have to rent it out. Same thing with private companies. If you wanted to buy shares of my company, for example, you wouldn't be able to log into Wealthsimple and buy shares from my company. You would have to, you know, get in touch with one of our directors, and then you would have to enact a share purchase. You can get an attorney or however you wanted to do that, but it's essentially a transaction at that point. You're getting a product, which is the shares. It's the equity of the company.
Okay.
Is I don't know if you know anything about it, but like the big thing now for investing is property and real estate. I feel like people don't realize how actually hard it is to even start real estate and property. Like Emmanuel was telling me yesterday, you see all these like TikTokers and YouTubers, they always go on like and promote like just buy a rental property, but like they never say how to do it, what to do, how much it costs, how much you'll make. Like I don't think people actually realize how difficult it is, and they just kind of scam people, I feel like, into buying these stupid what is it called, like their videos that they their programs. But like, do you know anything about rental properties and how to even like begin to start with that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't own any real estate myself, but yeah, there is a lot that goes into it. It's not just buying a house, right? Like, I mean, you are buying a house, but if you know anything about buying a house, it's a long process. You know, there's property taxes, there's insurance, there's investment insurance, there's being a landlord in general. I mean, everything is on the homeowner. It's not really on the tenant. If something goes wrong with the house, it's the the homeowner's responsibility.
Mhm.
It's their job to fix it up. So it's not like real estate investing isn't a way to just print money. There is a lot of work that goes into it, and a lot of research that goes into it. You have to find the right tenants, but typically the money is really in commercial investing. Buying residential real estate properties is fine, and a lot of people like doing it. But if you can get into commercial real estate, and if you can afford to the upkeep, that's where the money is. If you can buy, like the guy that, I mean, Costco typically owns all their own properties, but just to use them as an example, Costco has a landlord. That landlord's killing it, right? Because Costco's so big. And for example, our company, the guy that owns our building, we don't own our own building. We rent it from the landlord, and that's $6,000 a month.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was wondering, like, is there any like strategy or method to like reduce like your risk from like investing on a stock?
yeah, sure. I mean, don't put all your eggs in one basket is probably the biggest one. You know, you need to diversify your portfolio. You need to diversify your income streams. But yeah, I mean, don't look for crappy stocks, to make sure that look at the valuation. So there's a market cap. Every time you buy a stock, there's a market cap. The market cap is essentially what the company's worth. It's either, sometimes you'll see 1.2 B, which is 1.2 billion. If a company that's worth 1 billion is a better stock to buy than a company that's only worth $100. So a lot of people seem to think that higher price of a share, the more valuable the company, but it's not really true. It's what the company is worth as a whole. So if a company has, so like Ford, for example, Ford is a massive company, but their shares are only $7 a share. I don't know what it is right now, but it's what it was last time I checked. You can have a company with $600 shares, so one share is $600, but the company is only valued at $10,000. You don't want to buy that. You're going to spend $600, unless it's like a startup with a lot of brand potential or something like that. Like if there's more to it than just the price of the share. But yeah, those are things to look for. The market cap. You want to make sure that you're diversifying. You don't want to throw all your money into one thing. But also, the biggest advice is just to buy ETFs. Buying individual stocks is fine, but where you're really going to make your passive income long term is in index funds. So S&P 500 ETFs, Vanguard ETFs, because they're essentially baskets of individual companies. So rather than you picking which company to buy in and then trying to figure out how you want to buy the shares individually, just put your money into ETFs, and then these ETFs manage a basket of companies and shares for you. There's some better ones than other ones, but yeah, if you do some research on those.
Like, to go back to the Ford thing and how like a stock influences a company. This is like, I don't know if you guys can see that Ford over the past 5 years. Okay, you can't really see it. Yeah. So like over the past 5 years, it's gone like down every single year. It's just starting to go up. But like, how the hell is a company like Ford that, obviously needs to make money. Every company needs to make money to survive. But how the hell does a company like Ford just keep going down, 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 and down, and yet they're still a company? Like their capital, what is it? Their market cap is $53.2 billion.
Yeah, so I mean, Ford's got other assets tied up other than just their equity shares, but Ford did go through a little bit of a dip. So it's no secret that Ford is slowly losing money. They're still obviously a large company. I mean, one of the largest companies out there. Keep in mind though, Ford Motor Company has revenue streams coming from other brands that they own. I think they still own Aston Martin.
I don't think they do.
No?
I think they sold them. They just bought them to use their designs for their shitty Ford Fusions and then sold them in 2015.
Well, Ford went through a massive dip when they got rid of all of their sedans. When they started only selling their SUVs, I think their share plummeted from $20 a share to like $4 a share. It was really, it was a massive drop. Because a lot of us just sold out because they didn't see the same future that Ford did. But it fluctuates, right? Like these share prices constantly fluctuate. You just need to make sure that your value is constantly going up, even in those little small declines. It's like kind of like an Instagram following, right? Yeah, you're going to lose some followers, but if you're always gaining followers, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But if you're only gaining a new follower a day, but you're losing 50 followers a day, that's when it becomes an issue. It needs to be proportionate.
Hmm.
So Ford's still proportionate. They're not constantly losing followers.
Yeah. And then you see like a
Okay.
lot of companies like Coca-Cola, for example. Coca-Cola. You see a lot of companies like that make, like, I've been on their watch list, like the stock on Wealthsimple literally hasn't really gone up or down. Like it usually stays at $50 to $48 all the time. So like, and I've seen many videos of people saying like, oh, you should always invest in like Coca-Cola, AT&T, companies like that. But I've noticed that they don't grow a whole lot. And over the past, let's see, month, they've actually like dropped a decent amount. So like, is that still a smart option to invest in? Because I know Coca-Cola also pays like 3 times the amount of dividends or something like that other companies do.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you look at the brand history, you know,
Mhm.
Coca-Cola is probably not going anywhere anytime soon. Because
Which it
Coca-Cola
did.
isn't just, it's not just Coke, right? Like they have acquired so many other brands, you know, and they own it's Sprite, they own Fresca, they own Monster Energy, they own Fairlife Milk, you know, like there's a
I don't
whole
think
bunch.
I think I
Yeah,
do actually.
Fairlife Milk is distributed by Coke.
Didn't know that. I don't have to stock it.
No, you don't. Well, it's like Tropicana is distributed by PepsiCo, but the Pepsi Cola guys don't touch the orange juice.
I don't talk about Pepsi. I'm a Coca-Cola employee.
But you have to look at the history, right? So if they have a demonstrated history of paying dividends and staying in business, then it's probably a safe stock. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of factors to consider when you're investing. But the biggest thing is just to keep it for the long term. You know, don't get caught up in, oh my God, I lost some money this time. It's how much money are you losing and how quickly. You know, if the company is very quickly declining, like Aurora Cannabis was supposed to be this big, you know, medical marijuana company. And the problem with it was investors had shares in it with that promise that it was going to be this, you know, hot thing to pharmaceuticals, or when marijuana was legalized in Canada. But then very quickly, the company started to have supply chain issues. They had internal issues with their executives. They ended up going through a hostile takeover from another company that essentially just broke it down for scraps. And everybody held on to this ideal that, oh no, Aurora is going to be the next hot thing for medical pharmaceuticals, right? So nobody sold their shares, and then everybody lost a ton of money when Aurora went, you know, belly up. I mean, they're still a company, but they're barely surviving. Their share price hasn't gone up in 2-3 years. It's been constantly declining, and people have lost a lot of money because they didn't recognize these issues early on. They just kept holding on to the ideal that it's going to be a good company. So it's the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of factors. Like you look at Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola's been a relatively stable stock for plenty of years, but things can still happen. If Coca-Cola were to be swallowed up by PepsiCo tomorrow, you'd have to consider to take those things into consideration.
How long would a stock need to drop or for you to give up on it, you know, especially if you have a lot of shares in something?
It's a good question. I think it's more subjective. Like I'm not a finance expert, so I don't want to give you like a quantitative number about how much you would, you know, what percentage you should relax on. But I think it's really up to you, right? Like and what you're comfortable with, because sometimes these stock prices go right back up. If you're a more aggressive investor, maybe you're okay with the stock price dropping, you know, 20%. But if you're a more conservative investor, maybe 20% is like, oh my God, I need my money back, you know? So it all depends. It depends if it's going to keep declining or if it's going to eventually come back up. You know, like Nokia dropped down to $3.05. And that was a big dip because I bought in at $4.25. So that was a big dip in my investment. But today it's back at, like, right now, I don't have my phone on me. Right now, I think it's back to $4.22. But it was like at $3 for a solid 3 days. And if I would have sold all my shares, if I would have panicked early, you know, it's not like it roped in a bunch of money, but it did go back up. So it's almost like a non-issue. So it just has to be with what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back on some of the things you were talking about at the beginning, where you were saying like what are some good things to have, and you said I think you said TFSA.
Yep, tax-free savings account.
Tax-free savings accounts, and you said ETS as well, right?
ETF.
ETF. Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anything else?
An RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Fund.
Okay, RRSP.
Yeah, I think that also goes like saying don't get too greedy with your stocks either, because like for example, I have shares in like Canopy, the weed company, and I remember I told myself once it hits $60, because I bought it when at the beginning of COVID at like $17 a share, and I told myself as soon as it hits $60 a share, when it goes back up to the original price, I'm gonna sell. And then I got greedy and it went at 60, and the next day it got to 64% dollars a share, and I was like, oh, if it's just gonna keep going up, I'm just gonna keep holding it. And I got too greedy, and now it's all the way back down to I think $49 a share, so it literally lost like $20. So I think that it also has to, you have to know when to sell your shares and when to hold your shares. Yeah, it's at $42 right now. Oh, damn. Yeah. So I think you also have to think like, don't get too greedy with your shares, and know when to sell, when to, keep them and stuff like that. But again, like it's hard to predict all that stuff with, yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys do, now I'm going to ask you guys some questions. So what's your general topic for this podcast?
Well, we're going to do business stuff, but a lot of us were talking about investing yesterday and stuff. And even now it's just, especially with Matthew, I think Matthew is the one who got us into investing. He got me into investing, at least. A
lot of us are like looking into investing, whether it's in stocks or I mean, now that we've had this podcast as well, I'm going to look more into the RRSPs, the ETFs and stuff like that. But I mean, we've all been talking about it like overall, like throughout last year into this year, about like investing into different things. And because we've always been told that investing early is a good thing. So we've always been looking into it, trying to finally dip our toes in the water to see what it's like. So I feel like this is a good like entry level podcast to have to like get us to like actually like make a final decision.
Like during the summer, like I actually started doing, like my friend got me to like the Forex trading and stuff, like, and like he's been making like a lot of money off it or something like that. So I was like, yo, why not? But like I never really got into it. But like I guess like I just keep hearing too many like good things about trading and stuff. So it's like, you know what, I'm gonna have to like look into it a little bit more, give it another chance.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was gonna ask, like, what are your opinions on like the Forex trading?
I think you got to know it well to make money off of it. It's like you're talking about foreign exchange market trading, right? Yeah. So
trading currencies and stuff.
I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I know it's a complicated trade, right? Like you got to know what you're doing, because it's very easy to screw up. It can be rewarding, but you need to know what you're doing. And I think it's overhyped, to be honest with you. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that it's oversold in the sense that people think that you just have to do, like, it's just do Forex trading and you'll be a millionaire, right? Like it's like, oh, right, just, go be a heart surgeon, you'll be a millionaire, right? Like it's the same thing. You can't just be a heart surgeon. Like there's a lot of skill involved and knowledge involved. It's the same thing. There's good ways to do it and there's bad ways to do it. But I more meant, so like, not the topic of this episode. I just meant like your whole podcast in general. Like what's your general theme that you guys try to do every episode?
I
think all of this podcast stuff kind of just ties into being like a young man, pretty much. And just things around that.
Like our environment growing up as like young males, what like what we should do in life, pretty much. Like, you know, whether it's a financial aspect, whether it's a physical aspect, you know, like taking care of yourself, whether it's a mental aspect as well, because you know, it's men's mental health is not talked about a lot. What else? Emotional aspect as well. Yeah, just like growing up as a young man, like all aspects of that, pretty much. That's what we talk about like during our podcast. So most of our, like, we do have the occasional, you know, for fun podcast, like where we rated cereal and stuff. But we do, mainly what we're trying to do is, like, you know, give our experience and as well as our, like, our journey on our experiences growing up as, you know, growing into like fulfilling men in society, you know. So that's what it's like, pretty much.
I think that's actually a good way to like say it, because even if like we do like the goofy video, like the what was it, the would you rather one, like it sounds like, you know, it's just for fun, and it was fun to make, but it's like we're even just sharing our opinions and our experiences for like different things. And I think because with our friend group especially, we're all from different places. Like Eman's from Egypt, Shelton's born in Paris, me and Tariq are born in Canada, but like Matthew's born in Athens, and we all think differently. And it's like it's always interesting to see the different sides and opinions and experiences, how people grew up from like everywhere around the world and stuff like that. So it's not, I mean, like the would you rather things, it's not that deep, but like you can see that how that's kind of how it is in a certain way. But we do have a minute left in the recording, so I think I'm gonna have to end it there. But I appreciate you coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for showing up. It was very insightful.
It's pretty informative.
Like very informative. Actually, damn.
We're all gonna be millionaires.
So I'm happy to help. Thanks for having me.
So I guess that ends it. This is my brother. Take a good look at him. Take a good look at me. Rate us in the comments. Rate us in the comments. But no, I'm joking. I'm joking. Don't do that. He does have a better beard than me. I'll say that. I'll give him that. But that's it. Thank you. That was pretty informative. And like, comment, subscribe.
All right.